welcome again to this little library. Let me grab our book for us here from the shelf. All right. I've got my Code Red Mountain Dew with me today. Let me make sure you can see me there. Yes, and I've got our book here. Once again, holding it upside down. I hope that you are having a wonderful week. Maybe you're like me and you were up late last night taking care of children, and then up early this morning getting right to what you need to do. Maybe you have your drink with you and you're ready for a moment just to sit back, or at least to go to a place in your mind where you can listen to God, what He has to say to us through this wonderful little story here. Today we are, believe it or not, on chapter 6. Chapter 6, which is titled Out in the Storm. The hand felt its way up his arm, and grasping it gently and strongly above the elbow, lifted Diamond from the bed. Remember that picture, you can see this, you see North Wind and how large she is compared to Diamond right now. Remember where we were at? She was very small and then very, very large. We're about to go out into the storm and do something with the ship. Okay, so the moment he was through the hole in the roof, all the winds of heaven seemed to lay hold upon him and buffet him hither and thither. His hair blew one way, his nightgown another. His legs threatened to float from under him, and his head to grow dizzy with the swiftness of the invisible assailant. Cowering, he clung with the other hand to the huge hand which held his arm, and fear invaded his heart. Okay, so, yes. This is a very, very intense scene here. I did want to quickly point out maybe one thing that we didn't quite touch on with the last chapter, which is the comment made by his mother at the end of the chapter. You don't seem very well tonight, Diamond. Just before this, okay? So that will come up again later. "Oh, North Wind," he murmured, but the words vanished from his lips as he had seen the soap bubbles that burst too soon vanish from the mouth of his pipe. The wind caught them, and they were nowhere. They couldn't get out at all, but were torn away and strangled. And yet North Wind heard them. And in her answer, it seemed to Diamond that just because she was so big and could not help it, and just because her ear and her mouth must seem to him so dreadfully far away, she spoke to him more tenderly and graciously than ever before. Her voice was like the bass of a deep organ without the groan in it, like the most delicate of violin tones without the wail in it, like the most glorious of trumpet ejaculations without the defiance in it, like the sound of falling water without the clatter and clash in it. It was like all of them and neither of them, all of them without their faults, each of them without its peculiarity. After all, it was more like his mother's voice than anything else in the world. So, yes, there's some things going on here. Obviously, we keep on talking about the allusion to North Wind and some kind of spiritual connection there, maybe with God or, something like that. And then, maybe it's a little more complicated than that. But then there's this connection with his mother too, right? And this voice sounds like his mother, and there's this thing too about how she's so huge that she purposefully speaks with much gentler and softer voice. And a lot of times we think of big personalities, big huge even statures, right, of people kind of dominating, but we also all know those people who are large, whether in stature or in perceived importance, maybe in their stature within society, right? Who carry it not in a dominating way or domineering way, but in a way where they come gently because they know how much power they're carrying there. So, Diamond, dear, she said, be a man. What is fearful to you is not the least fearful to me. But it can't hurt you, murmured Diamond, for you're it. So the storm can't hurt you because you're it. Then if I'm it and have you in my arms, how can it hurt you? Oh, yes, I see, whispered Diamond, but it looks so dreadful and it pushes me about so. Yes, it does, my dear. That is what it was sent for. At the same moment, a peal of thunder, which shook Diamond's heart against the sides of his bosom, hurtled out of the heavens. I cannot say out of the sky, for there was no sky. Diamond had not seen the lightning, for he had been intent on finding the face of North Wind. Every moment the folds of her garment would sweep across his eyes and blind them. But between, he could just persuade himself that he saw great glories of woman's eyes looking down through rifts in the mountainous clouds over his head. And another allusion here, of course, that I'm thinking of, and that maybe we mentioned already before, just because of the nature of the storms and things like this, is the Elijah story with all the God was not. He looked for God, in the earthquake and the fire and the storm stuff, but God wasn't there. God was in the whisper. So he trembled so at the thunder that his knees failed him, and he sunk down at North Wind's feet and clasped her round the column of her ankle. She instantly stopped and lifted him from the roof up into her bosom, and held him there, saying as if to an inconsolable child, Diamond, dear, this will never do. Oh, yes, it will, answered Diamond. I'm all right now, quite comfortable, I assure you. Dear North Wind, if you will only let me stay here, I shall be all right indeed. But you will feel the wind here, Diamond. I don't mind that a bit, so long as I feel your arms through it, answered Diamond, nestling closer to her grand bosom. Brave boy, returned North Wind, pressing him closer. No, said Diamond, I don't see that. It's not courage at all, so long as I feel you there. But hadn't you better get into my hair? Then you would not feel the wind. You will here. Ah, but dear North Wind, You don't know how nice it is to feel your arms about me. It's 1,000 times better to have them and the wind together than to have only your hair in the back of your neck and no wind at all. But it is surely more comfortable there. Well, perhaps, but I begin to think there are better things than being comfortable. There's a point right there, right? Yes, indeed, there are. Well, I will keep you in front of me. You will feel the wind, but not too much. I shall only want one arm to take care of you. The other will be quite enough to sink the ship. Oh, dear North Wind, how can you talk so? My dear boy, I never talk. I always mean what I say. Another point here, right? Obviously, the other point was pretty obvious, right? About being comfortable, and George Macdonald's trying to challenge our prioritizing of being comfortable, and whether that's an appropriate or inappropriate prioritization in our values of being comfortable, right? As like the highest good, right? And then here also taking this as some kind of representation of what God is doing in the world, with North Wind. My dear boy, I never talk. I always mean what I say. Well, of course, that is the implication is that other people, such as us humans, do talk, and sometimes we just, you might hear some people say, "Oh, they're just talking. They're talking just to talk." They're just talking. They just want to talk and enjoy talking. They're not even what they're actually saying is not the most important thing. They have not necessarily even thought about or care so much about what it is exactly that they're saying. They're talking just to talk. And some people are talking and intentionally are being deceptive too, right? But and sometimes we say things and we always mean more or less than what we say. I mentioned that before, but God never does. God doesn't just talk. God does everything with intention, on purpose. So he always means what he says. Then do you mean to sink the ship with the other hand? Yes. It's not like you. So here we're having that same conversation. Remember, this is a core piece to this book. It started out with this sinking, this drowning story, and then immediately the narrator, George Macdonald, used the narrator to tell us this story is not, that's not really how it is. So it must be different, right? So we can't just throw out Diamond's accusations of you're not like that, right? There's something to what he's saying, but we're going to get some more definition. This book is all about suffering and God's part to play in relationship to, suffering and evil and those kinds of things. Okay. It's not like you. How do you know that? Quite easily. Here you are taking care of a poor little boy with one arm, and there you are, sinking a ship with the other. It can't be like you. Ah, but which is me? I can't be two me's, No, nobody can be two me's. Well, which me is me? Now I must think. There looks to be two. And so this is really the classic problem, right? It's there's a ancient heretic. Not that I mean that that's what he was, according to the church at the time, Marcion, and pretty early on in the 2nd century of Christian history, who basically said, well, that God of the Old Testament is a violent, angry God, Jesus is the real God and that God is not the real God. And he basically kind of divided the two into two different pictures of God, and then said, like, well, I'm only going to read, like, I think parts of the Gospel of Luke and like some of Paul, or something like that. He took out everything that didn't agree in his mind, with the peaceful God, loving God represented in Luke's Gospel of Jesus. And so a lot of times when we're reading scripture, when we're thinking about God, and we hear these different testimonies of who God is, as witnesses of who God is in scripture, we can contrast the two and say, it looks like there's two different gods here. And so George Macdonald's trying to attack that point here and say, well, can there be two me's? No, And so, yeah, the pacifist, turn the other cheek, love your enemy type of Jesus, represented in the Gospels, cannot be divorced from the Old Testament God, or picture of God in other parts of the New Testament. So we have to define God clearly and interpret scriptures consistently with the character of God. And George Macdonald aims to help us, I think. Okay. Yes, that's the very point. You can't be knowing the thing you don't know, can you? No. Which me do you know? The kindest, goodest, best me in the world, answered Diamond, clinging to North Wind. Why am I good to you? I don't know. Have you ever done anything for me? And so he's also making several other points, right? Like the point of God's perspective being different than ours, and it's hard to judge God's actions according to our perspective because we don't have all the perspective that he has. This is the Job thing, right? Job, at the end, who was there in the beginning, setting the boundaries of the earth and, doing all these kinds of things. Were you there? Can you really question who I am? And then here, George Macdonald is really emphasizing, well, who do you know me to be? And, you know me as good, right? So, okay. Anyway. And also that we haven't done anything to deserve God's goodness. But there's more. Okay. Have you ever done anything for me? No. Then I must be good to you because I choose to be good to you. Yes. Why should I choose? Because you like. In other words, because you want to, you like to. Why should I like to be good to you? I don't know, except it be because it's good to be good to me. That's just it. I am good to you because I like to be good. Then why shouldn't you be good to other people as well as to me? That's just what I don't know. Why shouldn't I? I don't know either. Then why shouldn't you? Because I am. In other words, you're wrong, brother. There it is again, said Diamond. I don't see that you are. It looks quite the other thing. Well, but listen to me, Diamond. You know the one me. You know the one me, you say, and that is good. Yes? Do you know the other me as well? No, I can't. I shouldn't like to. There it is. You don't know the other me. You are sure of one of them? Yes. And you are sure there can't be two me's? Yes. Then the me you don't know must be the same as the me you do know, else there would be two me's. Yes. Then the other me you don't know must be as kind as the me you do know? Yes. Besides, I tell you that it is so, only it doesn't look like it. That I confess freely. Have you anything more to object? No, no, dear North Wind, I am quite satisfied. Then I will tell you something you might object. You might say that the me you know is like the other me, and that I am cruel all through. Basically, George Macdonald is showing us through North Wind that North Wind, the part of North Wind's actions that she's about to take here, how she is acting here as this big storm. Diamond's not familiar with it, and the whys and all that kind of stuff behind it, but he can trust that even if he doesn't understand it, that God is good, and George MacDonald's not going to leave us there with that, kind of superficial answer of just kind of the retreat to, okay, you don't know, and so don't worry about it. I am good. He's going to give us more than that to chew on. And also here he's I believe I just read it for you. He's North Wind is not letting Diamond be satisfied, right? Because there is this idea that, okay, we just trust God and don't ask any questions. However, if you actually read the Bible, Job asking questions all the way through, right? Like the whole 40-some chapters, like he's asking questions of God. He's demanding of God. He still has faith in God, but it's like the Psalms, the same way. How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever? I'm weeping on my bed every night. Where are you at? Like, why do the wicked prosper and the righteous suffer? Or even Jesus on the cross, right? My God, why have you forsaken me? Speaking the Psalms, Psalm 22 from himself. And so this is not the kind of book, George MacDonald is not the kind of thinker, and this is not the kind of book to just say, stop talking, stop asking questions of God, stop wondering about who he is. No, he's inviting you to ask more questions, to know more. Keep on dialoguing, keep on praying, keep on talking to God, keep on discovering, keep on reading and learning from the world around you. And so here, North Wind's not going to let him stop with his first point here. She's going to go ahead and make another point for him. Well, you could continue to object. You could say, well, I'm actually as cruel. Both of your experiences of me are cruel all the way through. And then Diamond says, I know that can't be because you are so kind. But that kindness might be only a pretense for the sake of being more cruel afterwards. Diamond clung to her tighter than ever, crying, No, dear North Wind, I can't believe that. I don't believe it. I won't believe it. That would kill me. I love you, and you must love me. Else how did I come to love you? How could you know how to put on such a beautiful face if you did not love me and the rest? No, you may sink as many ships as you like, and I won't say another word. I can't say I shall like to see it, You may sink as many ships as you like, and I won't say another word. That's how confident I am that you love me. I can't believe that you're not good. Goodness, love is too obvious, of a thing, of a reality. And you are what's good and what's true and what's beautiful. You are beautiful, and that has to be goodness and truth. Again, Jordan MacDonald is coming to this principle. You may sink as many ships as you like, and I won't say another word. Yeah, that's so good. And I was thinking of a parallel here. Or what was it? Perhaps it'll come to me in a minute. That's quite another thing, said North Wind. And as she spoke, she gave one spring from the roof of the hayloft and rushed up into the clouds, with Diamond on her left arm, close to her heart. And as if the clouds knew she had come, they burst into a fresh jubilation of thunderous light. For a few moments, Diamond seemed to be borne up through the depths of an ocean of dazzling flame. The next, the winds were writhing around him like a storm of serpents. For they were in the midst of the clouds and mists, and they, of course, took the shapes of the wind, eddying and wreathing and whirling and shooting and dashing about like gray and black water, so that it was as if the wind itself had taken shape, and he saw the gray and black wind tossing and raving most madly all about him. Now it blinded him by smiting him upon the eyes. Now it deafened him by bellowing in his ears. For even when the thunder came, he knew now that it was the billows of the great ocean of the air dashing against each other in their haste to fill the hollow scooped out by the lightning. Now it took his breath quite away by sucking it from his body with the speed of its rush. But he did not mind it. He only gasped first and then laughed. For the arm of North Wind was about him, and he was leaning against her bosom. It is quite impossible for me to describe what he saw. Did you ever watch a great wave shoot into a winding passage amongst rocks? If you ever did, you would see that the water rushed every way at once, some of it even turning back and opposing the rest. Greater confusion you might see nowhere except in a crowd of frightened people. Well, the wind was like that, except that it went much faster, and therefore was much wilder, and twisted and shot and curled and dodged and clashed and raved 10 times more madly than anything else in creation, except human passions. Diamond saw the threads of the lady's hair streaking and all. In parts, indeed, he could not tell which was hair and which was black storm and vapor. It seemed sometimes that all the great billows of mist-muddy wind were woven out of the crossing lines of North Wind's infinite hair, sweeping in endless intertwistings. And Diamond felt as the wind seized on his hair, which his mother kept rather long, as if he too was a part of the storm, wink wink, and some of its life went out from him. But so sheltered was he by North Wind's arm and bosom that only at times, in the fiercer onslaught of some curl-billowed eddy, did he recognize for a moment how wild was the storm in which he was carried, nestling in its very core and formative center. It seemed to Diamond likewise that they were motionless in this center, and that all the confusion and fighting went on around them. Flash after flash illuminated the fierce chaos, revealing in varied yellow and blue and gray and dusky red the vaporous contention. Peal after peal of thunder tore the infinite waste, but it seemed to Diamond that North Wind and he were motionless. All but the hair. It was not so. They were sweeping the speed of the wind itself towards the sea. And unfortunately, we'll have to wait to find out what happens next. But I did think of what the illusion I was trying to get at. When it says, you may sink as many ships as you like, and kind of like this whole assumptions about the sinking ships and things like that, right? There's a passage that I refer to sometimes when people say, when people say everything happens for a reason, which is the passage in Luke 13, I think it is, in the beginning of that chapter. I think it's Luke 13, where the disciples are chattering, and there's like a tower that fell on somebody, and something else that happened where people had been killed. And from Jesus' response to the disciples talking about these tragedies, Jesus says, "Hey, guys, do you think this happened to them because they were greater sinners than you?" And then he says, "No, I tell you, hey, if you don't repent, you will perish." And one of the lessons there, and again it happens with the guy in John 9, Bartimaeus, that Jesus is healing from blindness. They assume that his blindness is because of his parents' sins that have been passed down to him. But basically the message there is that, hey, you don't know what's going on. Do not put God on things that happen just because they can't be explained. Especially things that involve people being killed, definitely, don't put a motive to God like that. Is one of the worst things you can do. Very, very presumptuous. And some things happen just because of people making bad decisions. Now, what I say out of that is that not everything happens for a reason. Because if we say that, a lot of times people will hear that that's because God did it and you deserved it and whatever, right? And I have more to say on that. But I need to at least say, the way I say it now is, not everything happens for a reason. But God makes a reason out of everything that happens. Because what Paul does in Romans 9 through 11 is he talks about how the Jews committed the greatest disobedience of all time. And it was their fault. It was their fault in killing Jesus and putting God himself on the cross. God was not... That didn't happen for a reason. God is not violently killing Jesus on the cross. People put him there. The Jews put him there. But God used that to create this great opportunity, to make a reason out of it, to create a way for each of us to be reunited and reconciled with him. And he does it all the time. And also in Romans 8, right? Who works all things together for the good of those who are called according to his purpose, right? He takes all of our mess here, and here, and works them all together. But we can't assume just because ships are sinking or other things that happen that God wanted to judge these people or commit violence toward them, right? And so, Jordan Macdonald helps us a lot there with that. And notice another little hint here that I don't want to leave off like I did last time in the end of chapter 6, which is mother, and Diamond felt as the wind seized on his hair, which his mother kept rather long, as if he too was a part of the storm, and some of its life went out from him. So if we're taking the general analogy that north wind represents God in some fashion, and that part of its life went out from him, and that like we live and move and have our being within God, and that the Spirit of God left humans at 120 years, and then so they started dying sooner in Genesis. Then what this passage is saying there is that some of Diamond's life left him here. And not only that, also that he was always connected, like the long hair, as if he was a part of the storm, as if he had always been a part of it, as if he has this deep connection as if he's a part of the body of Christ, right? He has a deep connection with God. He's connected with God in that way. And his life is sustained by God. But some of it has left him here. In the last chapter, we heard at the very end that, hey, you don't look so good, Diamond. So there's something going on there. But I can't tell you all of it yet. To be continued. Neighbor, thanks again for stopping in here to the library to read together. And won't you please tell a friend to read along with us, whether they're getting copy and reading physically or whether they're listening along. And leave a like or comment, share it. Send in a question. Email me. Comment there on YouTube. Whatever. Interact in some way, and I'll be happy to pick that up in the next video once I see it. Thanks for joining me, and until next time, neighbor.